Welcome back to our next session for this video. Yesterday I talked about innovation, and right now let's try to talk about innovation on an organization. So let me show you our presentation for today. The title would be Organizational Innovation and Change. For the objective of this topic, we need to understand that organizations can use innovation and change to survive and even thrive in a changing world. Now, how do you sustain innovation? Now, successful companies like Google, Apple, Tesla, they innovated to survive, right? They need to be successfully good companies, okay, to apply to those innovations to survive and to thrive and to just simply go over with the flow. So it makes a product or service perform better in ways that mainstream customers already value. So in short, it's not disrupt. So if you try to look at it, it improves something you are used to. So if you're used to something and it was improved, that would be positive effect. But if the system or something was improved, which was a disadvantage to you. So these things are the key to sustain innovation. So it talks about a disruptive innovation. So in this innovation tries to disrupt the norm. So if you're used to and it was changed abruptly, that would be a problem. So if your routines were changed in an instant, so you can actually have difficulties in coping with these changes. So take for example what I'm doing right now. I'm doing video lectures, which is not my norm, right? Although this is a technology which is already utilized by a lot of people, but this is not yet practiced in our institution. So that would be a problem. So how do we address that? So in order for me to survive, I need to go with these things. I have to utilize tools that can support this disruptive innovation. Because due to the pandemic, we need to innovate, right? So this is true for companies. They need to innovate to survive this pandemic. There are three main types of innovation. There's the process, where you improve gradually your process. There's a technical, where you improve technology, specs, or specifications for that particular device. And there's also process. How do you simplify your process? So these are the three things. So of course, an organization needs to apply these three things. So for the process innovation, it's an innovation achieved through creation of new means. You have a new product, a new process, a new design. So for example, you can have online banking, or also you can have e-commerce. So right now, we are actually embracing online. If you try to embrace online today, it would be more convenient because of the norm which requires us to have physical distancing. So if you try to look at it, physical distancing is mandatory of the government. So people will resort to online instead of actual lives. So online transactions are way more convenient and less exposure. So that is the point of this process. They try to improve gradually according to the needs of our. Take for example, technical innovation. Say for example, Bluetooth was introduced. So before there was no means of transferring files wireless. It requires line. Whereas if we could try to process using wireless, it would be better. Wireless was far more convenient and at the same time less prone to physical requirements. So that is another scope of innovation which requires technical innovation. So let's say for example, you have a smartphone which before wasn't capable of having a Wi-Fi connection. Right now, your smartphone has a default feature which is capable of having a Wi-Fi connection. Try to look at it. That is the technical innovation. Let's try to look at this picture. Let's try to look at the conversation. This really is an innovative approach, but I'm afraid we can't consider it's never been done before, and that is innovation because actually you cannot innovate if there is a norm. Norms tends to dictate what we would like to do, what we are used to. But if you have innovation, it's disruptive. It change. Not all of us likes change. So if you try to look at it, some innovations are stopped. Some organizations are not used to particular process. So if you try to ask yourself, if something is new and it was never done before, it's a form of innovation. So if companies did not listen, or people who said it was not done before, we will not have this conversation today, because these were people who created this type of technology that we can use it today. The problem with innovation, so some people tend to not to use it. What about in an organization? what is this type of innovation? It's the creation of new organization design, which better supports the creation, production, and delivery of services or products. In short, it's more of a bird's eye view of what to do next in the aspect of the organization. So if you try to ask yourself, if you're a company, how would you survive if the competitors are gaining an edge towards your product, right? So if you won't innovate, won't change your norms, you would never survive. Let's try to discuss the example. Virtual teams are actually a necessity for today's pandemic. Virtual teams is very much a reliable force or team because of the situation we are currently facing. Being online or work from home is typical scenario. Now, having said that, if you're going to look into an organization, what would be their three main innovative approaches in the perspective of process, technical, and administrative? Hit the comments on this video so that we can check what would be your observation for that particular company.